My name is Brian Edwin Pugh. I was born in Merton in 1936, the 13th of April. This house has been in our family since about 1906, I believe. And I've partially farmed it myself. I've never been a full-time farmer because the amount of acreage we've got was about 33. It wasn't really enough to bring a family up on. And I've always been associated with the land though, and I've had a great deal of pleasure out of it.
So we were just chatting about Cannockston Farm. Would you mind telling me about that?
Yeah, well, Kennockston, the farmhouse that's now in St Fagans, my great-grandfather allegedly, and it must be allegedly, I'm afraid, because I don't have any written proof of it, but he was born there in 1850. The reason for that was that his mother was the sister of the lady that was living in Kennockston, and she went there for the confinement. When they decided to move Kennockston up to St Fagans, I believe in 1953, my grandfather, who was still alive then, said, "Well, boy, they're taking the house that my father was born in all the way up to Cardiff." So that's the only evidence I've got. I've got no reason to doubt it because, these things are handed down through the families.
So we were also talking about the colour, weren't we? Because we're sitting, if you could describe your farmhouse. So we're sitting now in this room. I can see the dresser. Is that lustreware? The little jugs.
Oh yeah, they're family heirlooms. Yeah. But this house itself was originally white when I was growing up, and it was, I don't know, around about sometime in the 70s. We went to Cardiff to St Fagans, and I liked the colour, and it was known as Gower Pink, and they used to make it apparently out of lime and ox blood and mix it for the red. The story goes that they painted it red to keep the devil out, that when he saw the red, he'd be thinking of the blood of Jesus, and he would go on his way. But we got the recipe actually from St Fagans.
You did?
I wrote to them and asked, and they sent me down the mixture, and I got it from what's the name of the firm in Cumdee, paint wholesalers. Anyway, they've still got the recipe now. We've painted it a couple of times since the original one, and we go by that recipe every time.
It's wonderful, isn't it? I noticed there's a house on the side of Kevin Bryn now. They've also painted their farm this colour, so it really does stand out, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So I think I would say that you were one of two houses in this that I can think of.
Klein Farm is painted this colour.
Is it? Okay.
Yes, it is. You're right. It's interesting because I, after going to St Fagans, I had a little look up, and it said then it was originally made of tallow and ochre, or made from blood to protect the wood. But then, like I say, the Cannockston one in St Fagans, it says it's to ward off evil spirits, which is a far better story.
The other thing you had to have was small windows so the devil couldn't get in.
Yeah.
And you had to have a rowan tree planted because that's got red berries when it's matured. And that's another sign now to keep away. This is a Christian house. And
protection.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It's also the tree of travellers, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. Well, I was born just down the road. When my parents were married in 1933, my grandfather let him build a new house in the corner of Field Hilland, it was known as, and that's where we were all born. But you could get from Hilland, through Hilland up to get here without going on the road, So when I was quite a small child, I could run up to Gag, I used to call my grandfather. Because my grandmother actually died when I was only 8 months old. So I got no memories of her, only a few photographs.
Did everyone speak Welsh, or was it just...
Well, no, English is our first language. I suppose it was South Gower, we've got the Gower dialect. But my grandmother actually was first language Welsh, and she passed on quite a bit to my mother, and then it came down to us. But I'm not really fluent in Welsh,
So you mentioned the dialects, so that's interesting. in terms of Gower dialect, were there any specific words related to farming or words that you really remember?
Well, you would say that my grandfather rather, used to say, "Where bist going, boy? Where are you going?" And there's an old rhyme about, I bought an all yo in Leeson. I were blind upon one eye, and if I hadn't a kilton, my ewe would have died. I tried to make a selling to the miners of Kilvey. I asked a grot a quarter, but threepence is all it gave.
So can you translate? I think I get that. Kilvey, mining in Kilvey.
Miners in Kilvey, I know, in Swansea.
Yes.
Leeson is a farm.
I know it.
Down Gower. And a groat a quarter. Well, a groat was fourpence, wasn't it? And a quarter was a quarter of hundredweight. What would that be? £14? It's a quarter of a hundredweight. That's right. It has £28. That's it. Yeah, £28.
I know some Gower words, things like bumbagus for bittern, I think.
Yeah, well...
witches for moths.
Yeah, Vedas Moor was fairly common.
Ah.
I'm trying to think of some others. Copley. What's the place by Pennard Church?
Widegate?
Yeah, well, that's Widyat.
Widyat.
In Gower. Hairslade is Haslet.
Haslet.
And Bracelet Bray is Bracelet. That's how my grandfather always used to call them by those names, you know.
Interesting, bracelet or bracelet. Do you know why bracelet? Do you know why?
Well, it's short for broad slade. Instead of saying broad slade, it's bracelet. Where is going by? Oh, it's going a bracelet. And like with the ploughing now, like you've got the Voer and the Warrior. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
The Voer and the Warrior.
When you plough, you know, you open out. Yeah. And the one horse walks in the Voer, which is the thing, and the other one is on the unploughed land, right?
Yeah.
And when you get to the end where you turn around, well, that's the Warrior.
Oh, right.
So, and what was another one I knew about that? To see no boy, I went into the vale, and there I was, stood on the Warrior, with all the gear round and all to clush.
Clush? All around?
Yeah, well, all in a mess, like
in a mess.
All to clush.
Brilliant.
And, yeah.
Those words would have been so influenced by that farming community and
it was.
People coming into work.
Merton and Bishopston then, see, there was no bus services, nobody had a car. You would go to Swansea for market day. I remember my mother telling me they only, her and her sister and my grandmother used to go to Swansea twice a year. My grandfather would take them in the trap to Blackpill, and they catch the Mumbles train up to Swansea, and they'd shop in for Whitsun clothes and Christmas. And then they'd come back and he'd be meeting them in Blackpill and bring them home. But,
Whitsun was a big event, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, it was the chapel, the Sunday school anniversary was always on Whitsunday. That was a big event. And the Band of Hope used to... Well, the chapel was the centre of the community, really. And there was a big sort of anti-alcohol campaign.
We were just...
The Wesleyans, because there was another pub besides the Plough and Arrow, the Mansell Arms.
Oh, okay.
Just along here. The house is still there, but it hasn't been a pub for a long time. They managed to shut that one down, but...
That's interesting, the Mansell Arms, assuming that's linked to the Mansell family. The name,
Mansell
because
Talbot.
Mansellton, there are still no pubs allowed in Mansellton since it was built by the Mansells. The Mansellton Hotel is actually in Penvilliers. Across the road, it wouldn't have been able to be built.
No, so that is interesting. We were talking about that chapel culture, so I'm glad that you've spoken about that. So I was interested as well as to, you said that it was hard to make a living from the land. So how much land was there again?
Well, we had 33 acres.
33 acres.
My grandfather, I think it was 8 or 10 milking cows. They used to milk them twice a day, obviously. And then they'd take the milk to Mumbles. They had a milk round in Mumbles. They used to go in the horse and trap.
Okay.
And later on, they had a car and a pickup truck, and it was amazing.
That must have been amazing.
And then he'd do a bit of everything. Like we had sheep. He used to shear the sheep. Pigs, used to kill a pig out in the yard, and we'd have all the fresh pig meat, and that was all during the war, They very keen, like you had to have a license to kill a pig with rationing. So what they used to do, like my grandfather would have a license to kill a pig, and the farm opposite, he'd killed one already, so he couldn't kill another. So he used to bring his pig over to us, and they'd kill the two, because they used to say, well, one pig's blood looks much the same as another pig's blood, so they wouldn't know. And then grandfather used to salt the bacon. They used to hang them from these hooks here in the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
When I was a boy, like I used to sit over there, and they would be wrapped in like a kind of I know it is muslin or what it was, but a cloth, like. And he used to take it down. I used to sit and the fire used to be over there, not the one that's there now. It used to be an oven and sham. And he would cut a piece off, and it would be almost solid fat, with a little bit of lean running through it. And he used to lop this down, and he lived to be 85, so he couldn't have...
Didn't do much harm, did it? No. Is that still a bit of the pig sty outside?
Yes, there was another 2 pig sties out here by the garage.
So they must be pretty old.
Yeah, I can remember there was a litter of pigs out there. Grandfather used to go out through the gate and round to... there's a gate leading out onto the common. He used to go in through there then to feed these pigs.
I suppose from here to the front door would have been difficult otherwise. Yeah.
And they used to do a bit of market gardening as well, used to grow potatoes.
I was going to ask what you grew.
And all stuff like that, So well, we didn't actually do lava bread, but most of the other farmers around here did. So like you had a little foot into everything. Like if the market fell out of lamb, for instance, well, you still had pork and you still had beef, or you still had potatoes.
Very resourceful.
And you would it was originally, I suppose, in the old days, subsistence farming, really. You were just made enough to feed your family. But then later on, when they come in of lorries, you could get your goods into market. It became a business, and that's why, like Merton and Bishopston used to be all farms or gardens, like when I was a boy.
How would it have looked around you? So today, obviously, we've got quite a busy road.
Yeah. Well, this bit here now is more or less exactly the same as when I was a boy, apart from my son. He built a house in the rickyard. Okay. And then the other house then where the blacksmith forge used to be. But apart from those two, everything is virtually the same.
My brother lives in the granary, so that was obviously a granary.
Where is that?
Behind the chemist in Merton.
Oh yeah, well, that was Merton Farm there, the original Merton Farm.
Okay.
Jones used to run it when I was a boy. And his children were in school with me. They've all gone now, and pretty well all my friends have shuffled off. But there's an agricultural footpath leads from up the farm opposite, up across their fields and into our fields, and then out onto the common.
Oh, okay.
And if you wanted to go that way, I can remember my grandfather was working up one of the top fields, and me and mother taking tea up to him and going up that way, and they had stiles there. Then you could climb over the stile.
Yeah. That's so you wouldn't have to go up to Reigate Lane like you do now. No. You just go straight across here.
That's interesting.
That's another thing. Now you said Reigate, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's wrong.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah. It's Reject.
Reject.
That was what the original pronunciation was.
Which is how it's spelled, really, isn't it?
Regett.
Yeah.
Well, grandfather always used to say, you know.
Regett Road.
Yeah, Regett Lane.
Lane.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's good, because I've only pronounced it Reigate.
Oh, yeah, well.
Because the locals do, and I'm a foreigner. But now I can pronounce it properly now.
You've got Reigate, they pronounce it, I think, now, but Regett was the... And I think it originally comes from Welsh, Radayat, which means like the Red Gate.
Oh.
Okay.
So the Reigate, you're not too far out.
Ah.
Right.
So place names are interesting. Miles Lane, places like that, did they exist then?
Yes, well, Miles Field, now that's an interesting point. When my grandfather, or my great-grandfather came here, first of all, he had 52 acres, right?
Right.
Well, then in 1931, the original owner had died, and his son wanted to go up to Hereford to farm up there, and they had a sale in 1931, and my grandfather managed to buy these 33 acres. But that field, now Miles Field, as we used to call it, that was known as Eastern Bramley. And the one next down was Western Bramley, and the one on the outer part was Outer Bramley. All the fields have got names, like, you know.
Yes.
And, a lot of them have been forgotten. Now my sister, now she's got horses up Regett, but she don't know the names of the fields.
No.
She never bothered to remember them. But I always say, well, I'm going up the Cowfield, or going up to Sandyland, or what's the other one? Body Acre, and there's the Leg.
The Leg.
When they split up the farm, the people from Knothills Farm in top of Penmain.
Yes.
These two brothers owned it. They had 103 acres, right?
Okay.
So it was split between them. So they had 51.5 acres each.
Okay.
Well, our place now had to be made 51.5 acres. So to do that, they cut off this piece of one field now, and it's long, narrow field,
right,
half an acre, to make up the odd half acre.
And you called that the Leg?
The Leg.
Makes sense.
But it looked like a leg.
Yeah.
And,
so Knot Hill, that connection, I've always wondered why not.
Yeah, well, North Hills, I think they'd probably call it now.
I assume,
Knot Hills.
I still call it Knot Hill.
Yeah.
It's still called Knot Hill.
Yeah. The other one, my grandfather had another leg down in Espelone. You know, as you go down, well, the house is there now on the left. Well, there's a long, narrow field going in there. That's another leg. Because the joke used to be Arthur Jenkins, who my grandfather is, he got two legs, one in Regett and the other in Espelone.
I like that.
And Espelone, incidentally, comes from Esgair Lone, which is Welsh for leg lane.
Oh.
That's a lot of people have puzzled out of it, where Espelone comes from. Esgair is leg and Lone is lane.
Right.
Because like when you get over to North Gower, you've got the Welsh, more Welsh there. My grandfather's, I say my great-grandfather, he was born in Llanmaddock, and he was Welsh speaking, and they came up here, and he still had, my grandfather had family down in Penclawdd.
Right.
And apparently, you heard of, what's his name, the musician?
Carl Jenkins.
Eh?
Carl Jenkins.
Carl Jenkins, that's right. Well, I'm sure he's related to us because he looks very much like my grandfather. And they were all there. And funny thing, they were all very musical over there. They were composers, choir masters, and all the rest of it. When my great-grandfather came over here, and all my cousins, now that they're descended from him, there's not one of us got a note of music between us. It's strange.
Well, that great tabernacle church in Penclawdd, the acoustics in there, you lose that, don't you, when you lose those chapels? And
that's right,
I know, I grew up near Penclawdd.
I remember a story my father told me when he was working on the buses. One Sunday now, he was out in the Bishopston garage, and Rowley Taylor, as they used to call him, or Papa, came along, and the bus came down. So, come on, boy, he said, let's go and see what they're doing out in Pennard. So we got out to Pennard, and the bus turned round, and all the people got off and started streaming away. And Rowley said, "Well, there they go by, Satan leading on." And my father said, "Well, boss," he said, "you just charged him 1 and 6 to get here." Like,
was he going to go back for them? Just leave them
yeah,
there?
well, it was a proper service, like, you know. They used to do our half-hourly service to Swansea. Shilling return.
Wow.
It was for years. Well, it was June of 1939. No, 1940, that's right. And Bertram Mills Circus was in the wreck, you know, by St. Helens. And my mother took me to see the circus, and I can remember it clearly now, the clowns and the horses and what have you. Anyway, when we came out of the tent, there was a mass of police and troops wandering all over the place. You know, I would say, "Well, what's going on?" Like, well, what it was, like, Italy had declared war on Britain, and the clowns most of them were Italians, and they were being arrested now and deported out to the Isle of Man. So,
my gosh. So the last few things I wanted to ask you about, actually, you talk about that agricultural path over to the common.
yeah.
You also mentioned the milk round in Mumbles. So we spoke with a lady who grew up on Boar's Pit Farm, Lower Boar's Pit, and she was talking about the milk rounds and the sort of connection. So I assume those milk rounds would have been in slightly different areas, or would they have been working together?
Our people used to do Victoria Road in Mumbles and out to Southend.
Right.
And apparently my great-grandfather started it. He went, because they had a surplus of milk here. He went down there and he shouted up to this woman to see what milk made, you know. And she said, "Are you from in along or out along?" And she said, "Oh, I'm in along." "Oh, well, that's all right then." Because the people in along didn't get on with the ones that was out along.
Fantastic. Yeah, I just did a project on Mumbles dialect, actually, funnily enough.
Well, Mumbles dialect was
similar.
Gower, same as Gower.
Yes.
You still hear it, some of the people there, you know.
How art boy, yeah. Out along her in a cussin is another word I heard a lot.
Cussn't,
that's it.
Just they cussed, but they cussn't.
That's it. Thank you for saying that, because when I wrote it down, it didn't do it any justice. I suppose it's important to ask how you enjoyed your life on the farm.
Oh, yeah, well, it was great growing up, you know. We used to have exciting times, haymaking, corn carrying, thrashing was particularly, because we used to have a steam traction engine pulling the thrashing box. And me and Clifford, my cousin opposite, like when the thrasher was here, there was no school. We had to go and help with the thrashing, and our job was the bags of corn coming out of the back of the machine. We would be responsible for filling them, you know, and then when they full up, you'd shut off the flow and then drag the bag away and put another bag there, you know. And of course, wartime, there was rationing of everything. And my grandfather used to be allowed a special ration of coal for the steam engine. And the steam engine came from Prisk Farm over Llanryddion.
That's where it came
Jones,
from.
His name was. And,
okay.
Then they would have a harvest supper here, like, you know, and they could have extra, I think it was cheese and meat or something or other, you know, to feed the farm workers, because you needed at least 12 people to work when the thrasher was here, like, you know, and they'd all come. Everybody would help everybody else, you know.
That's a theme. That's what others have said. Everyone would come and help each other. So it must have been quite a nice event in some ways.
It was a family gathering, like.
Yeah.
And this family, Jones, Edward, he had a brother, Harold, who was a little bit slow, you know. So they used to let Harold now look after the engine, you know, keep the steam up.
Okay.
And Harold would be stood up on the engine, and he'd like sort of go off into a daydream. And of course, as the steam pressure went down, the machine went slower and slower and slower. And Edward used to shout down to him, Harold, put some coal on. Oh, right.
Oh.
Brilliant.
So do you remember the seasons quite distinctly?
Oh, yeah. We used to get more snow, I think, in those days. I can remember 1945 and 47, we used to go tobogganing down the fields to the Espelone way, and and then summertime, of course, it was, as you say, the haymaking. And when my father came home after the war, he took one of the fields and he set up as a market gardener, although he was working with a swan as well. And I can remember like a winter's morning having to go up and pick sprouts. And these sprouts, would there be literally frost on the sprouts, and your hands would be...
Oof. Hard work.
And we used to sell them in the shop they had down there eventually.